What is up, guys? Welcome back to Live Travel Asia, where we show you what it's like living and traveling in Asia. So yesterday I was at Fortune Town, which is a big electronics plaza out here where the locals go to shop. I was there shopping for a mic to eliminate the wind noises in my videos, but what I came across actually was the Zhiyun Crane Plus, and that opened up a whole can of worms, which had me spend all night researching, watching reviews about all the gimbals, and I even made a spreadsheet of all the pros and cons of all the gimbals out there. Okay, I'm lying. It's not all the gimbals, but it is all the gimbals that matter, which are the Moza and the Zhiyun Crane line of gimbals, which are the best gimbals out there and ones that I think you should be buying. So until I actually did all the work to check out all the specs and watch all the review videos from mainly 3 of the YouTubers that I know use gimbals quite a bit and I respect their opinions, I was actually leaning towards the Moza Aircross. However, I'm here in Fortune Town about to buy the Zhiyun Crane Plus because I'm quite convinced that that is the gimbal that is perfect for me, for my particular situation. And I wanted to share that thought process with you because although there's quite a bit of reviews and comparisons out there, I haven't yet seen a video that really compares all the Moza line and the Zhiyun Crane line across the board without a bias. Okay, so now I am in front of my bank trying to withdraw the money to purchase this gimbal. It is actually quite a bit of money. This is a really significant investment for me, and that is why I went above and beyond and tried to do as much research as I can. And I really hope this helps somebody else out there that's in a similar situation make their decision about which gimbal to get. By the way, this is the shop that was gonna give me the lowest price after I searched everywhere. Just for those of you who are curious, you do get a 1-year warranty out here in Thailand. I believe it's the same everywhere else. Thank you so much. What? Now at this point, what I do want to say though is for my regular viewers who are interested in more of my living and traveling in Asia stuff, if you are still watching this video at this point, I'm going to give you full disclosure that it's going to start sounding very geeky and techy with gear and gadget talk, so I can't promise you that it's going to be worthwhile watching the rest of this video. Okay guys, now for the unboxing. And I'm gonna talk particular about the Crane version 2 while I'm unboxing this because the package contents were one of the biggest factors in deciding why I wanted to purchase this for $110 more than the Crane version 2, which basically has the same form factor, even has the same exact case and size. The only difference is that the Crane Plus will have this harder foam on here. But one of the biggest selling points for me to purchase this over the Crane V2 is not the higher weight capacity, as my Sony mirrorless camera is gonna do just fine on the V2. The main gimbal is pretty much the same other than the weight capacity. This battery grip is the same. They're using the same batteries. They're using the same charger. The thumb screws are a different color, but they're the same. They have a lens mount, which most people don't use. I believe that's the same as well. Another thing that's the same is they'll include the micro USB cable for you to update the firmware and calibrate, etc. Now this is where it gets different. First of all, you get a tripod included with the Crane Plus. And this is something that I saw as something that is essential to the gimbal, as you'll be setting it up, balancing it, doing your time-lapse photos, etc. And you definitely need a tripod. This alone, if you search for it on Amazon, is $35. And it's a really good quality tripod. That's something that was important to me. I saw some of the other ones and they had very flimsy leggings, but as you can see, this is a very stiff, very solid piece of tripod. They do include this grip tape. I could give it a $5 value, but this wasn't the biggest factor, honestly. This, however, is what is covering for the rest of that price difference. It may not seem like much, but they include a cable for the Panasonic GA series and the Sony Alpha series mainly. So I think that's why it was a no-brainer for me, because I'm using the Sony mirrorless system, as far as wanting to pay the extra $110 for this item. Okay guys, so why would you get the Zhiyun Crane Plus over the other 4 options from Zhiyun and Moza? Well, this is actually a really tough question, and one that I spent a lot of time researching, and there really isn't a right answer for it. But first of all, you have to be aware of your gear size. The Zhiyun Crane Plus sort of falls in between all the different ones in the line, and it has a 5.5 pound weight capacity. Now, the Zhiyun Crane V2 and the Moza Aircross has a lower weight capacity and a lower price point. And the Zhiyun Crane version 2 and the Moza Air has a higher weight capacity and a larger price point. So I think those are the first 2 things you want to consider, the budget and the weight capacity, because you definitely need a weight capacity that supports your camera, and always be aware also of your minimum weight capacity. For me, I have a mirrorless camera and I wanted the smallest form factor for that, and this Zhiyun Crane Plus worked out. 5.5 pounds is actually overkill, but I just like the fact that this has a higher weight capacity. Just me thinking, oh, well, it's gonna have a stronger motor, maybe it will last me a lot more. And people have reported it gives a lot more of a stable image. So other than that, let me go through the modes and how stable this is, because this is what most people are interested in. So the first mode I'm going to talk about is the pan follow mode, which basically locks off every other movement except for this pan movement. And with the controller, you can go up or down in a tilting fashion. So this is a mode that most people use because it keeps the horizontal axis stable, and you'll see even if I run back or forward, it tries to keep everything level. And if you press the mode button again, you're gonna go into a completely locked mode. So even if I try to pan, it won't do anything. However, it gives you access to the pan with the controller, as well as the tilt from the mode before. Now, the third mode, which Zhiyun calls the POV mode, is basically a mode where it does all the movements, which is the pan, the tilt, and the roll. So it's almost like it's you looking. So that's why they call it POV, which I think stands for point of view mode. And some of the reviewers have said that Zhiyun's the only one that does this, but Moza with their latest firmware update does it as well, and they call it, I believe, a roll follow mode, because it follows this roll mode as well, but also follows the tilt and the pan. Now the fourth mode can be accessed from any of the modes by double pressing the mode button, and basically it is somewhat like the POV mode, but it doesn't do the roll. So if I try to tilt it like this, it doesn't do the roll, but it will do the tilt as well as the pan. And lastly, I can control the roll with my controller. So in some ways I like this because I like to have things somewhat leveled off when I'm moving around. But if I do want to tilt it, then I can use a controller. And I have a better control over that, which I personally like. And after I tilt it, it will always stay in that tilted position until I bring it back up. Okay. And then the last thing I want to talk about is if you triple click the mode button, it swings it around so that it's looking at you, which I think they call this the selfie mode. And it's super useful for vloggers because I could be talking into the camera like this, and if I see something interesting up ahead, I don't have to swing the gimbal, but I can just triple press this, and then it will flip to the front, and I can point out what I'm looking out in the front. So this is quite useful. I'm gonna now try to just do some extreme tests. It might look funny, but you can see it's really, really stable. Anyways, right now we are in the pan only mode. Let me actually level that off though. Okay. Alright, is it level? Nope. Alright, you're actually experiencing all the different quirks of this gimbal that I don't like. Okay, so I'm out of breath, but you judge for yourself how stable that shot is. I think it's really, really stable. I don't know how much more stable you can get. I think the only person that's actually claimed that the Moza is better is Brandon Lee, and I actually really like him. And I'm sure maybe it is for certain shots, but I can't imagine where the Moza would be any more stable than this. Okay, so now that I'm all sweaty now, I'm just gonna sit down and talk about the stats. Originally my video was like 20 minutes of this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and link a picture of the stats here. You can pause it and look over it if you want to look at it in detail, but basically I put all the disadvantages in the red and all the advantages in the white over the Zhiyun Crane Plus, as far as why I wanted to buy one over the other. You can look at the stats yourself and analyze it to death like I did all night to determine for yourself which gimbal is right for you. But to sum it up, I chose the Zhiyun Crane Plus over the version 2, which it's almost completely similar, except it's just lower price point and it has a lower weight capacity and it doesn't include all the extra bells and whistles. But those bells and whistles are what matter for me. I'm more than willing to pay an extra $110, especially for the advanced motion time-lapse, which is something I couldn't compromise on as I needed that for my establishing shots. I had a vision for my vlogs. I wanted that motion time-lapse. Some of you might also like the tracking feature that it has, where you can actually set an iPhone on it and track an object. And this is going to be particularly useful in situations, maybe you're shooting interviews and you don't have a second cameraman. You can set that up, track a person's face as he moves around, and you can shoot the other person. So, I mean, you could have a whole camera crew with just that gimbal. And this is something that was really, really important to me, the extra features. I also wanted a tripod, as I mentioned in the beginning. And as far as why I didn't choose the Moza Aircross, well, this one was a hard one for me. But ultimately, what may have decided it is they don't have the Aircross out here in Thailand. It's so much cheaper, and it is a newer gimbal with all the features. It almost identically matches the Zhiyun Crane Plus, aside from the lower weight limit, and it has a limitation on the tilt angle, which I think even Brandon Lee in his review mentioned was an issue. It just wasn't as stable as the Moza Air. But yeah, I really sort of wanted to get that Moza Aircross, but I just didn't have one to try. And I've heard really, really bad things about the app, and the app is essential and one of the best things about the Zhiyun Crane Plus, because it's so easy to just Bluetooth into that. As a matter of fact, I'm not really using my Sony remote app anymore, because the Sony remote app requires you to log into Wi-Fi with them, and it's just a hassle because I'm always connected to some Wi-Fi network. I have to unplug it, unhook it, and then just hook it into this other Wi-Fi network, and the Bluetooth is just so snappy, guys. It just really saves a lot of time, especially because I used to use a GorillaPod to set up my selfies with Mayu, and then we're taking the thumbnails. With this one, I can actually control where the camera is pointing and click a shot. The only thing is I don't get a preview of the image, but I use a wide-angle lens so I can sort of, you know, eyeball it anyways, just looking at the camera and thinking it's pointing at my direction. So that's something I really like about the Zhiyun Crane, and they have a better app from what I understand. Next thing I like about the Zhiyun Crane 2, not to be mistaken with the version 2, is it does have the LED on the mode thing, and I didn't think that was a big deal until I started using this. And when I'm shooting with it, I am lost which mode I'm in. They really need to be more intuitive about this. They could have just maybe made it a clicky thing where I just click through mode 1, 2, 3, 4, but I have to click one, twice. Sometimes I'm not double clicking or triple clicking fast enough and it switches the mode and I don't know which mode I'm in. It's such a pain in the butt. So that LED screen would have been really helpful. They don't have it in any of the other gimbals, but they do have it in Crane 2. And it also has a follow focus mode. Now, what I do want to mention though is that all the Zhiyun line of cranes have a feature where you can zoom in and out with like a knob on the side. And this is super useful for Sony users. You will know my pain. There is a feature called clear image zoom that Prime users use all the time because it allows us to zoom in without sacrificing the picture quality. And I don't know what voodoo magic they're using, but we use it all the time. But it does this little step in zoom. Whereas if you buy Sony's remote, which is another $20–$30, you can zoom in smoothly. Well, with the Zhiyun cranes, you can actually zoom in and out with that dial on the right. Now, the version 2 doesn't include a cable for that, which brings me to another issue. And I don't know if Moza Air and Moza Aircross has this issue, but I imagine so. But basically, you need to turn on the gimbal first before you turn on the camera, and if you don't do it, then it doesn't initialize the camera, and you're trying to actually zoom in and out or press record and stop record, but it doesn't work. And then you have to go through this whole thing of turning on the camera and off the camera. It's just a hassle. So that's something I don't like about the cable. The Zhiyun Crane 2 also has a charging feature, as well as the Moza Aircross has a charging feature. I thought the Plus did, but it doesn't work, guys. I don't know where I got this information, but it doesn't charge the camera. Maybe it will for the smaller cameras, but not for the A7 series. It's not charging it. And I saw some stats, and I think it has a 5 amp or 5 volt output. So it might work with the smaller cameras, but it doesn't work with my A7S II. Another thing I want to mention though is that if you really like the dual handles, the Moza Air includes that with their system for free. So that's something else you should consider. And another thing I really like about the Moza that they have is they all have the advanced motion time-lapse, but they also have another feature, a mode, where instead of having to use the thumb controller to move left, right, up, down on the lock mode, you can actually just move it with your hand. Now, I'm like afraid that that will damage my motor on the Zhiyun, but in the Moza you can do that. You can have a lock mode, shoot something, point it at a direction that you want, and shoot that and move along. That just seems so amazing to me. I wish Zhiyun had that mode. So, to sum it up, Moza has more shooting modes. Zhiyun has a more user-friendly app. For me, the app was what sort of trumped it. And I also have heard that the Moza has slight noises in the motor, which that sort of scared the hell out of me because I'm shooting onboard audio and I can't have any extra noises, and I've invested heavily into expensive Sony autofocusing lenses that have very silent motors for that purpose. So I didn't want to negate that with a very loud gimbal. So that was another feature that I like the Zhiyun Crane Plus for. So anyways, I hope this was useful. I know I sort of rambled on towards the end. I could really talk more and more about this, but just add in the comments below if you have any questions. I will discuss them in more detail as far as what I know, all the research I did. Check out that little screenshot of the different stats that I spent time on if you want to really compare. But I am overall just really happy with this gimbal. I wouldn't go with another one now that I have it and I've used it. I'm very confident in its ability to shoot very stable shots, making it versatile, making me not have to carry around a really heavy Steadicam that just flies away if the wind just blows a little bit at it. or having to carry a gorilla pod together because I need to have it set in a certain location for selfies. I can do all that with this gimbal, and if I knew about this, I could have saved money not having to buy that gorilla pod and even the cheap Steadicam. So please leave in the comments below what you think, and please subscribe if you like this video. I will also post more technical videos in the future. Although my channel is mainly about travel, I'm always having to do these kinds of things myself to figure out how to get better picture. And when I see something that's not out there on YouTube, or something I've researched hours and hours on, having to look at 5-6 different other YouTubers to get all the information I need, I like to just sort of compile all that and add anything extra on here so that you guys don't have to do all that, and you can save all the time and hassle and get all the same information I have. So hopefully you subscribe and check out my channel and support me. Whatever the case, I hope you guys have an awesome week and make awesome videos for your viewers. I will see you next week for more videos about living and traveling in Asia. Okay guys, I know I said I rambled on, I said enough, but I was editing the video and I realized I left out some really important information that I was actually searching a lot of other vlogs for and searching all over the web as far as compatibility, and I couldn't find it, and the only way I could find out was by just trying it out, and I wanted to share that with you. First thing is that this gimbal is compatible with the Manfrotto PL systems of quick release plates. This is super important for me because everything I have set up is on Manfrotto PL because I just like to have it click in. I don't want to have it adjusted. It's particularly important when you're balancing your gimbal because once you set your gimbal, you don't want anything to change. You just want to click it right in. And the Manfrotto PL system is quite unique in that it has a little bump on the edge, so it doesn't fit on a flush, flat surface. You need a little hole in the bottom of it. Not only that, I'm actually using a third-party one that I got from Amazon for like super cheap, not an actual Manfrotto one, and there are no vibration issues or any issues whatsoever using the Manfrotto PL system. The next thing I wanted to discuss is actually a quirk I have with this gimbal, something that I don't know why they designed it like this. It's sort of annoying, but it's the fact that once my gimbal is actually balanced, it balances in a way where it doesn't close. So to pack this up, you actually have to loosen the gimbal, get it out of balance, and then it'll fit like that. So they could have actually just made this part a little longer, and then that would have solved that issue, but I don't know. This is a design issue. They made it like this so that you have to take it out of balance every time to do that. Now what I did do though is, if you notice, there is actually a little room for you to adjust the camera on here, left and right. So I adjusted it in a sense where I'm able to just move it to a position where I always remember just to put it right there flush with this little circular part. And then when I lock it, it's balanced. So I adjusted this to counterbalance this so that it would match right there, because originally there was like 2-3 millimeters and that would have required me to balance it every time, and that's just extra time I don't want to spend. I want to be able to just, you know, shoot, pack it up, and then when I'm done traveling, then I pull it out and I just snap in my camera, but that's not possible with the A7S. The thing I want to mention as far as this little position right here is, actually, if it did balance that way so you can pack it, the other problem is you're gonna end up hitting this part right here. See how it's knocking that part? So it's actually not that much of a tilt and it'll still knock on this area. And mine is a little further out the way I positioned it, so I have a little bit more go until it actually hits it. As a matter of fact, if it's completely horizontal, I'm okay. It has an issue when it is actually tilted like this, which happens quite a bit because I'm shooting like that, and then I'll hit it right there on the side. So I don't know about this. Zhiyun, it doesn't take a scientist to figure out that all you need to do is just extend this a little bit. I don't think that affects the torque or anything at all. I think maybe they're just trying to save some metal right there. But that's about it. That's the main quirk that I have about this. Last thing I want to mention is that as far as this case, it's really not usable when you're actually going out because you have that issue with this having to be perfectly shaped for it to fit in. Actually, the harder foam is probably an issue because now it's perfectly snug. But I guess if you're traveling long distances, this is perfect. I also had to cut out this little groove right here. This was actually not there before. It's actually quite easy. You just get an X-Acto knife and then you cut it this way. And then there's 2 layers, so it ends up just being completely flat in the bottom if you peel it out of the top layer. But I need to cut that because I have a quick release plate and I wanted the quick release plate to sit flush in there without me having to take it out of this and having to rebalance all of that because you don't want to have to balance this every time you're coming out of it. What I actually end up using is this laptop case I got. It's actually pretty sturdy. It's for a 15-inch MacBook, but it works perfectly with this gimbal. I will just get this gimbal, stuff it in here. It's got neoprene foam, and then I shove it into my backpack. So it is quite travel worthy in the fact that I was able to get this set up so I can just balance it by having this little notch flush against the circular part. But that's something that you're gonna have to fiddle around with. It took me a while to balance it out so it's perfect that way. Whatever the case, if you watch this vlog until this point, I know that you are just like me, super OCD, want to check everything before you plunge that $400, $500, $600 into a gimbal, or $700 if it's a Crane 2. So I really hope you got a lot of information out of this. I went for like just an informative concept, not like a too entertaining concept like my other vlogs, because you know, quite frankly, I think the other guys do a better job of making it entertaining, like the common guy from Digital Rev, well he was, and Sydney Deongjong or whatever. I think they're pretty fun to watch, but I just didn't really get too much information out of it, and I actually had to do the hard work of all the research by going into their websites and digging up stats and, you know, just, I don't know. I just feel like they get the gimbal for free, they should just review it and tell us all the features, because I'm really interested in that because I'm a techie guy. So that's why I made this vlog super long, because I wanted to help somebody else out there that was someone like me, like super OCD and needed to know all of this. So hope you enjoyed it, or at least got information out of it. I am gonna sign out now for sure. Bye bye.